Okay. Hello, everyone. I am it. How's it going?
Yeah, good morning, mate. How are you?
Good. I think I'm playing around with the mic a bit here. So it's obviously, for someone like me that has those nervous tics when you have to shake or, touch things repetitively, having something like this in front of me is too tempting.
Well, the fact that you've got two mics, one natural, one slightly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all a bit bizarre, but how you doing? How's things, all right?
Yeah, very good, very good.
Excellent. And hi, everyone out there. So this is, I think, the second time in this setting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So we've had a bit of a gap since the last show.
We have.
Right?
Yeah, that's
bit of
it.
travel going on and
Exactly.
and all sorts. So yeah, busy times at the moment. But last show of the year.
That's it. Yep. So just we're going to win a Christmas break next week, obviously, guys. So yeah, we're just last show of until we hit into 2022, which is quite frightening when you say it like that, right?
Yeah,
Out loud.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it's been good, and I think we're going to use today's show slightly differently. So we're going to talk about maybe some of the highlights of this year.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I think taking some of those learnings from this year into next year, I think this is really kind of key. Just making sure about transition from sort of growth strategy and things like that are really kind of streamlined and people kind of understand maybe some of the opportunities that are kind of there in front of them. Early on in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the thing is, like, when you kind of go back over, obviously, all the shows in 2021, there's a lot. There's a lot of hours there to kind of trawl through and kind of pick out highlights of kind of what that's been. Just as we kind of wait for a few more people to drop in. So good to see you. And for those people listening on the podcast, which continues to kind of grow in leaps and bounds, that's thank you for subscribing to that as well. And obviously, for those of you watching live, we still get a few people watching live, which is pretty cool. So happy to do that. But I guess while we're just waiting a few people to drop in, a few things that have kind of popped up on the radar this week, right? Of interest. I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, you've picked out a couple of interesting ones. I've kind of, I don't know, it's just felt like a really slow news week. Obviously for obvious reasons. I think there's a lot of switching off right now. But actually, do you know, so I think there's a couple that have caught your eye.
Yeah. I mean, there's one, and I guess in that kind of new space. I mean, the first one is Tick-Tock. So Tick-Tock's pretty hard to ignore, really. I mean, it's one of those things that continues to grow. You see kind of more brands want to embrace it from a business perspective. But what's interesting is that they've launched a Tick-Tock kitchen concept in the States. So obviously we're all familiar, I think, with these dark kitchens or cloud kitchens that have no real kind of presence, but they're on delivery applications. And they basically teamed up with Grubhub. So they're taking the most viral kind of video from particular places and then actually delivering it. So they're kind of collating the most viral food videos, then working with Grubhub to ultimately deliver that viral food.
Interesting. So not just basically a standard food delivery system based around
what people want. This is based on trending, based on things that have been kind of accelerated. I mean, I still feel like the most famous thing, and that's just because I'd absolutely love them, was the whole cronut thing. When the guy in New York came up with this, I'm going to marry a croissant and a donut and call it a cronut, right?
That still excites you, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I actually remember when you first have you seen this? You've still got that same sort of smile on your face.
It's gone even further. There's something now called a cruffin, which is like a croissant and a muffin. And there's dossants, which are like donuts and croissants, and it's taken on a whole nother level. But I thought what was interesting about this is obviously kind of marrying, I guess, worlds that live together, but monetizing it, right?
So the question is, right, if you're a restaurant and all of a sudden, right, because you don't get any advance warning, you just blow up on TikTok. And then now everyone can order your food, right, within obviously your locality.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? How do you manage, the whole supply chain? How do you kind of manage the?
I mean, look, and that's one of those challenges, right? I think that having Grubhub as their partner, which is Grubhub in the States is like Deliveroo, Talabat, obviously, with other delivery platforms, but Grubhub, I think, is they do have those kind of facilities to allow the restaurant to ease off the gas, or kind of saying, oh, we've got things like that. So I think it's working in partnerships with those different places. But I just like the idea. I mean, there's, from transitioning from kind of Instagram to TikTok, there is a whole foodie scene.
Right.
And there's a whole load of, there's like Food God, I think is the one I kind of follow the most, and Let's Meet, as in MEIT.
Yeah.
So there's kind of some really big accounts on a whole load of barbecue stuff, obviously, that me and Jit follow like crazy. Who's on the back of an insane smoke at the moment? I don't know if you know. Overnight and stuff. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's nuts. I spoke to him this morning. But so I think it's just interesting how, that marrying of kind of the tech space and then monetizing, right? Because traditionally that space has been driven through influencers,
Sure.
and then influencers going somewhere and then showing something and then driving people to it. But now, obviously, it's just immediate, right? You kind of can instantly get that food.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, TikTok's just interesting, right? Because
So I was
out with a friend of mine last night, and he was like, I was like, what have you been up to? I haven't seen him for a few weeks. And it's like, oh, I've been, making TikTok videos. And I'm like, brilliant, because like he's a dad of 3, similar sort of age,
right? Young men.
Like really young.
Yeah, like really young, like us. Yeah.
And his first TikTok video got like 16,000 views in the first day or something.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was like a video that he took with his 13-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And it just blew up.
Yeah.
Like, she like did the video, went live.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, she was running back in the room saying, "Dad, like it's all over my friend's feed."
Yeah.
Like,
and
it was brilliant. He was quite happy with it yesterday.
Yeah.
He was quite proud of himself. And
the algorithm's interesting, because what happens is, the reason it has that virility aspect is, if as soon as you kind of watch something and you engage with it, that particular piece of content immediately gets sent to the For You page of all of your contacts that are connected, and all of people within a radius as well. So it forces, it's like, oh, hold on a minute, this looks like something that people want to watch, and then they'll just go like that. Okay. And then based on if people do want to watch it, then it's like, right, people really want to watch it, so let's push it wider and wider and wider. It's quite smart. Like, I mean,
okay. I've kind of got my own theory. It's based on like data of 2 people, so it might be completely wrong.
Right, you may crack the code there. So let's lean in. Let's lean in and listen.
So actually, it's based on 3 people.
Right. Okay.
So, like, I've literally expanded my audience size 50%. But basically, what's happened is, so I did a TikTok video like first lockdown.
Yeah, you were doing it with the girls, right?
Yeah, with Shane, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a bit of a fun video.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, 5,000 views.
Yeah.
Right. So Shawsy's done his video yesterday. He's got 16,000 views, like that. Yeah. Right. With a big audience now, right?
Right. Okay.
So it's and then someone else I know, whose first video got like 30,000 views.
Right. Okay.
But all of the videos after that get a little less.
Right.
So I wonder if it's TikTok's way of saying, hey, create more content.
People are loving you.
People love you because you've done one video and you're like famous now.
Yeah.
And so it's just like an encouragement to do it, because I think other platforms, it's the opposite, right?
Oh, it's soul destroying. Absolutely soul destroying.
Totally love.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether Chinese have just really figured this out. So that actually, it's all about
giving people
it's
a win.
All about ego, and it's all like that. So the first few videos they do, let's just boost it, and if they continue to do it, great.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there is like a little.
I agree with you, but the algorithm encourages that. So it throws it out to people that basically would want to watch, like your family, your friends, people, your contacts in your vicinity, like an office. If you do a little funny video in the office, everyone in the office sees it on their voice. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think you're right.
Not just the first video.
No. I think you
blow my theory. Basically.
No, not blow your theory. I think I'm saying for the first video for sure. Okay. I think that but it's random. I mean, if you look at some people's videos, they get massive spike and then nothing for like a month.
Yeah.
And then they might get another massive spike. And it's actively encouraging you to create content. I just think that there's the opportunity to go like viral or get views on that platform. It's not like that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or anything else like that, right? I'd say Twitter you can in a very negative sense, right? If there was, a negative tweet perhaps you put out or something, it was a bit, like that woman that did a comical, slightly off color joke and then got on a flight, if you remember, and then checked her TikTok and she'd become a meme in 8 hours, right? So I think you kind of see that. So that's there anyway. But yeah. So look, the second one that kind of interested me was NFTs and metaverse and all those kind of buzzy words. But what's interesting is there's this teen who basically 6 months ago decided to buy some assets in Polka, which is kind of a metaverse out there at the moment where you can own virtual assets. I mean, look, back in our day, it's Sims. I mean, Sims were building, roller coaster sim and all this kind of thing. If you're kind of building little towns and cities, this kid has earned close to $100,000 in 6 months. Building, he's got a little garage in there that he virtually services cars. He's got a restaurant, he's got like real estate, he's got a DIY shop. It's insane. Like, and people are paying to have their virtual cars serviced.
Really,
yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know what,
Emperor's New Clothes stuff. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I mean, I don't know if it was the fact that you said this kid just annoyed me. As opposed to someone like us who should really be doing stuff.
It's, when I say kid, I mean 35, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's we're definitely missing a trick here, Andrew.
No, I think look, I think the thing is
we need to take the next 2 weeks off and just buy NFTs and build virtual garages.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think the thing is you kind of associate things with reality.
Yeah.
And what thing, and look, it goes back. I tell you what, this just goes back to. It always, in a sales sense, it goes back, and if we link this to the growth show, it goes back to value.
Yeah.
It's value perception, right? It's simple as that. It's value perception. If you believe something is valuable, you'll pay for it. So, if you believe that, that particular, piece of virtual land is worth X amount of dollars, you'll pay for it, right? It's as simple as that. In Sandbox, which is another kind of metaverse, which is really taking off, you've got a lot of brands that have kind of jumped in. You've got people that are buying, land opposite a cinema because they're going to get good footfall and good traffic. And they think that there's a stadium next door to the cinema, so they reckon they're going to do virtual concerts in this space. So it's like, well, I'm going to have some stores nearby that sell merchandise, right? Virtual merchandise. I mean, it's interesting, but it goes back to value perception. Just like, I mean, when I talk to my dad and he's like, why would you pay that much for an iPhone? It's worth $10, right? Versus we get it every day, right? With websites and everything. How much does a website cost? I mean, that still kind of goes back to value perception, right? What's it actually going to bring? What's the result? But I think what will happen is I think that the buzz will start to die down a bit because there's like a huge buzz, and then similar to like blockchain, I think it may start the people that jumped in early.
Yeah, maybe. I think the thing is blockchain is now, it's just embedded in everything.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
It's kind of it's like the hype side of it has kind of died down, but the usage has accelerated. So, and I think maybe it's going to be
everyone now. Like if you're playing games as a 3-4 years old as I first started, you have virtual ownership. You've purchased coins. Every single one of these games has the ability to buy merchandise to, increase a character. Or at the moment, say Fortnite, at the moment, it's Matrix characters and Spider-Man characters. Yeah. So you buy them; they're yours. That's what you own. There's what they're talking about in Fortnite is a mechanism where there's a merchant kind of environment that you can sell them. So kind of secondary market to sell, because at the moment you can't. You buy things that are yours. That's it, right? Some people do sell accounts, so they'll kind of do a load of that and they'll sell an account that's worth X amount, but at the moment you can't say sell a hat or I've got a Spider-Man skin and I'll give you the Spider-Man skin for $10, because a lot of it's locked in as well, right? So things that were available 3 years ago you can't get now as a new player. So there's value in that, right? Because in their world they're an OG, right? They've got an OG skin and I can't get that skin anymore. So it's, again, back to value. It's valuable, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I find it massively interesting. It's a crazy space at the moment. But again, like you said, I mean, perhaps Christmas is a time to sit down and become NFT freaks and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Either that or just eat a load of food and drink too much.
I've got a feeling it's going to go in that direction. direction.
Better direction, yeah. Well, look, so we jump into
absolutely.
kind of highlights of the year, and then kind of looking into 2022, I guess.
Yeah, I think let's do that. I think that the first thing in 2021, and I think not every company, but I'd say a lot of companies have had a full calendar year now of working from home.
Yeah.
And I think it's, if we kind of go back to, scarily enough now, almost 2 years ago when this all first started, if we're looking at sort of that kind of February, March time, in 2020, it's interesting, right? Because I think everyone kind of was like, this is a 2 or 3 month thing. Kind of died down. And now obviously we've got a new variant, which is now in 90 odd countries or whatever it is as of yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it just makes you think that I think we've both sort of discussed, I think we agree that this isn't potentially going away anytime soon.
No.
But I think the fact that so many people are still working from home.
Yeah.
There's signs of lockdowns across, Europe for sure.
Yeah.
The cases are accelerating massively in the States at the moment now as well.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because I think when we look at sort of our business and we look at maybe look at it from 2 perspectives, but the first maybe from an operational standpoint. Things like productivity tools have just become more and more important.
Yeah.
We're talking about things like CRMs and all that kind of stuff, and I know you've got your own challenges with that at the moment. But your Zooms and not all of these things. I mean, even a webinar like we started during lockdown. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then when you kind of look at the other side of the business, where we're helping companies to target people, that whole targeting concept has just become like much more difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe if it was a B2B business and you were trying to target business parks and things like that, and you'd use locality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You'd use some sort of geographical radius or anything like that. That's been limited now over the last couple of years. And if you kind of, again, just because people's behaviors have changed.
Yeah.
I think we've just got to be much more maybe smarter and more intelligent and perhaps even more patient, I think, from a kind of market and sales cycle perspective, because and again, I think we can break that into 2 areas. But the first is that, I think we all agree that when we're working from home, I think we've now trained ourselves to be much more sort of productive and efficient. We're not losing time, in traffic and
that's right.
Those things. So on one hand, actually, people can make faster sort of purchasing decisions, but on the other hand, there's still apprehension and concern and those elements. And I think we're seeing that, within the sort of stock markets and stuff like that. Where uncertainty kind of isn't necessarily good from anyway.
No, and I think the challenge is as well that, because we play on a global, stage now, global activities affects different countries, right? Where it shouldn't necessarily affect different countries, it does. And I think, look, Apple came out this week and said indefinitely work from home now. So there's indefinitely.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's a shift, because they were the ones that were trying to get people back in. There was a big thing about Tim Cook and saying, well, okay, you work 3 days or 2 days or whatever. And I think they've come out now and said, look, indefinitely you can't work from home. And again, I think we're very much in that space that we do have that flexibility. A lot of people still don't have that flexibility to be able to kind of do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that reliance piece is only going to increase, but also it's habit forming, right? I mean, even now, I noticed the other day one of my extension cords, the bottom kind of plug had snapped off. I didn't even bat an eyelid. I just went onto Amazon and bought a replacement plug. Like, I don't know, 2-3 dirhams or something, just delivered. Now, ordinarily, that's something that probably I would have thrown away or just gone to the shops just to get a plug, like an Ace Hardware or something, right? So you would have washed away 2 hours, but because you're in that buyer mindset where it's like, well, I can just replace it, it's fine, the guy can deliver it. I can sit here, I can open my window and take it in while I'm on a call even, right? So I think the thing is that, people have formed habits now. And I think that the challenge is that yo-yo. I feel that's the uncertainty. If you're not providing, you know, certainty to your employees or your team, or even your own individual status, that's where it's difficult, right? Because you get into a habit. You know, people got into a habit. People got in a habit of just wearing a smart t-shirt and like shorts and flip flops. Don't know those people.
Yes, you know, I mean, exactly. Nice shoes, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but there's a. I mean, I think the key is really about habit. Now it's kind of, it just feels that, I don't know, you do something for 1 month or 2 months.
Yeah,
you start to form that habit.
that's right. Yeah,
When you start doing something for 18 months or 2 years,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of pretty much ingrained now. That's how you do things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that transition is just going to be even harder.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a transition, but like, I mean, I missed the Apple announcement. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of companies will be doing that. There's a lot of old school companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Who want to see their staff clock in at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we've got a couple of clients in the US that went back in last month. And it was almost comical. Someone sent me a picture of like, let's get back to work to kind of see each other again while they were sitting in their cubicle, right? Kind of like locked down. Someone else sent a picture of like their mouse and where they moved their mouse. Yeah. And it was like dark on the mouse pad because the sun had bleached the mouse pad over the course of the year. So it's quite interesting to see some of those memes come through. I think, I'd say the only thing that is, like so if we look very personally, we've started coming back into the office, but I do, as I'm driving in, get frustrated. I'm good when I'm here, but when I'm driving somewhere, that's what's frustrating now. You know, like you said, that 30 minutes time to kind of do something, because habit, right? Yeah. You're not used to being in the car anymore, right? To burn through time, and all you see it as is an absolute time waste, right? Yeah. You know. So I think that's going to be difficult. Look, from a technology reliance perspective, just to my little story at the moment, I got locked out of HubSpot, a couple of days ago here. My own fault. I mean, I changed phones and decided not to do the Google Authenticator and forgot my backup codes and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, it's amazing how reliant I've become on that. So, just by way of tracking documents, people are opening emails, people are opening documents, knowing where to focus my energies and my efforts. And back to habit forming, when you're communicating with someone and putting it as a deal and then doing this, that's completely thrown out of space at the moment. It's kind of like, I don't know what's going on. So hopefully should get that back today.
I think that's it. We are I'd say more reliant now on technology and like I said, those productivity tools than we've ever been, right? And I think if those things go down, or we're missing.
I'll tell you what, with that, I'm using Google Maps a lot more than I ever have. Right, because I know how to get to downtown. I know, right? But now I'm like, what's the fastest route? Yeah. Ordinarily it's that kind of muscle memory, like, oh yeah, up on Trackside or 311 or whatever, and you go down. Now it doesn't matter what trip I'm on. Yeah. Straight away, Google Maps. Exactly the same. Like what's the fastest route?
I just want to know like where there's traffic.
Exactly.
Every trip.
Yeah.
Which is
again reliant on technology to kind of make things through. I think what we've seen as well from a business perspective is people, from a technology piece, obviously we're being a HubSpot provider and partner, we've seen an increase in kind of interest in that space, and just conversations that you have with people, they're more inclined to talk about things like Monday.com, ClickUp, Salesforce, CRM, some sort of ability to manage their time or manage their environment. I think that's what people are relying on technology for, right? Yeah. Moving away from kind of whiteboards and bits of paper to kind of, having tech that helps them during their day, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I had a call from a friend in the UK who's a consultant, and he was basically saying this, that his client base are now, okay, we need now to really adopt productivity tools. And I don't know why it's taken guys in the UK for 20 years to suddenly realize, okay, we need to actually now do this.
Yeah.
But I think the point is again, I think, if you're entering into lockdown, I think people are just like, okay, look, I need a solution now, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I need to now maybe fundamentally change, and this isn't going away and stuff like that. But look, I think that's that whole piece. I think is interesting. I think it's going to continue to grow. Yeah. I think there's going to be, if I see like, just kind of fast forward into next year.
Yeah.
I think that space is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and these tools are going to get more and more powerful, and there's going to be more and more features, and I think it's just going to be so much easier to basically work wherever you want to work, whether that's home or whether that's remote elsewhere. I just think it's going to be, it's just going to be much more sort of possible to do so, I think.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, I think there's going to have to be a shift of companies, perhaps with an older mentality, just to kind of pull themselves up, because ultimately they're going to lose the workforce. The workforce is going to kind of migrate to companies that offer a better environment, right? Or a more flexible kind of environment for the way they want to live.
Yeah, and I think that's the other potential interesting thing, which if you start to get lockdowns again, the impact on businesses and things like that, because there's a few people I've spoken to saying there's a lot of people out there thinking, okay, well, I've kind of survived lockdown with the company I'm in. We've come out the other side, maybe it's time to kind of see what else is out there. The second there's any lockdown and uncertainty, and kind of the last in first out mentality comes into play.
That's true.
I wonder if it is
batten down the hatches, right?
Really is worth taking a risk for a lot of guys out there who are just thinking, okay, let me kind of follow that up maybe. But I don't know. I think this year, I mean, what's been your kind of key highlight for this last year?
Look, I'll do a personal and work highlight. For me, this is a highlight. I think from the combination of taking the show from you and I on the laptop on Zoom to now having it in the studio in the office, better camera, better audio, and I think for people that have been watching it, the feedback has been great as far as kind of better environment. The content creation piece, I think, again, is something that, especially kind of in that remote space as you're talking about, it's going to become more crucial to engaging with the business. So having the ability here now to create our own content for kind of our purposes, and then using that to ultimately promote what's possible. I think that's a big thing, right? I think there's and look, there's been some great wins and stuff from a client perspective, but I think something that's going to create longevity and really kind of add value to the overall business. I think this is definitely, and I've pretty much taken this now as my office.
I've noticed actually, it's just like
this is the only place I work. I just come in here and I just work. I don't sit anywhere else. I used to sit, obviously, I've always been a bit of a nomad in the office. For those of you who don't know, we operate a kind of an open desk policy, really. I mean, it's people kind of sit in particular places, but I haven't had a desk for best part of 5 years, something like that. So yeah, this is cool in here. I like this space. Good energy.
I've got a desk but can never use it.
No,
literally everyone
says it. That's right. Yeah.
Which is I'm publicly stating it out. It kind of really annoys me. But I
think there's someone watching now that actually sits in your place.
It used to be quite nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. And that was
what about yours?
Well, do you know? It's really difficult actually. I've had actually a lot of personal highlights this year. I think from a professional perspective, a 2-month experiment of seeing how that would work, working from
remotely.
Seeing how that would work. That was really interesting.
Worked very well, I think.
I think it did in some
from our perspective, I think it worked very well.
Yeah.
There was no kind of difference or anything. It was pretty much you were there.
Yeah, and I think I messed up the timings, which was
problematic for you, but again, not for us.
I thought it was a 2-hour time difference. It was a 3-hour time difference, and yeah, so that wasn't great. Waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to stay on the buy time, but I think I think I think the studio side of it is really interesting. I think this time every year, we always talk about, okay, like next year it's got to be video, and I feel as if we've been saying that for so many years.
First year inbound, 7 years.
Right. So a long time.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening now is I think the video piece has evolved, and I think it's got to be all about video again next year. But I feel as if now we're starting to be more kind of intelligent with that. So it's not just video for the sake of video, perhaps. I think personalized video is really where it's headed next year, and I think that's and I think just the fact that we've kind of been working on that, and I think we've made some really kind of good progress on that. I think that's been a big sort of highlight in that sense, and also just the fact that I think the technology adoption from a client perspective, because I always feel as if where we kind of mainly operate, which is in this sort of GCC region, technology adoption on one hand is extremely quick, right? So if it's a new social media platform that suddenly gets launched, this region is probably the fastest to adopt it, understand how to use it, understand ways of monetizing, presence from there, like that. But then in the B2B side of things, it's dead slow, right? Because you've got archaic IT guys, you've got procurement guys that don't get stuff, and then basically, marketing people, perhaps, or salespeople banging their heads against the brick wall continuously, who therefore then just give up because they know it's too much pain getting something through IT and getting finance approval.
Completely non-flexible.
Right. So you kind of almost like, to the point where I had a conversation last week over email where the person was saying, I'm just not sure if people kind of make decisions and buy things online. And
Perfect.
I was like, okay, but we should work together. It's basically just like, I don't know.
It's Friday.
But anyway, like there's still that divide, right? But, you're spending 8 hours a day on your device, right?
I think it's interesting, like you said, for the adoption and the transition piece. I think that what I've seen here is the timeline piece be more relevant. So I think people are requesting more timelines on specific projects. The difference with our clients in the US is that forms part of the pitch. So part of the pitch is we're working on ClickUp. You'll have okay, perfect. Right. So it's kind of, here it's somewhat of an afterthought, or will you include it? It's, okay, wow. There's no expectation. And look, I think that one of the challenges we face here is that the system of tenders and RFPs and everything to make things fair ultimately restricts creativity, restricts scalability, because they're saying, well, this is the allocation of budget for X number of implementation for the next 2 years, and it doesn't work like that, right? Depending on the adoption rate, depending on how they're using the platform, depending on where the growth areas are, you can't always lock stuff down, because there still is an older mentality where tech is a box that lives in a room where we have to pay extra AC to keep that room cold. So I mean that's pretty much still how people believe, right? Whereas my son and his mate were talking about cloud at the weekend. They're talking about cloud, and they're like, oh yeah, do you know what cloud is? I was like, yeah. It's like, how old do you think I am?
And how old you say?
9.
Yeah, which I think just it's nuts, right? I mean,
because we're all in that online gaming environment.
Yeah, exactly, and they get it. But I think what it is now is, I think the point I was making, I kind of forgot to make the point.
That's okay. That's fine.
Was I think this year we've seen that greater adoption, right? You're seeing that people understand that actually we've got to do things differently. Just taken far too long, but we're definitely. I mean, HubSpot's like a case in point for us, because that's very real for us.
Yes, exactly.
Where we've seen now, huge enterprises suddenly wake up and say, oh, maybe we do need a CRM.
That's right.
We do need marketing automation.
Exactly.
And actually, we care about customer service.
And
I think this is one of the things we want to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. But
I think for me that's been that major sort of professional highlight, that actually the market as a whole just seems to understand that they need to do things differently. And I think we had a bit of it. It felt like a bit of a fad last year. Where we've got to sell digitally. Anymore.
Exactly.
This, and we've got events, and so everyone was like, okay, cool. And then suddenly events started
coming back.
But it's not sustainable. I mean, it's not efficient. It's not being smart. And I think people are realizing that actually there is a better way. And we need technology to drive that. The challenge is, I mean, you've got huge amounts of revenue associated to traditional methods, right? We were talking about award shows, right, last week, and that space. I mean, obviously,
and just events in general, right? There's so much revenue attached to these activities that it's difficult for people to, just swallow the fact that there is a different way now, right? Look, I think we've got kind of, I guess, 20 minutes here. It might be worth kind of jumping. I think there's two key areas, right, that we think that 2022 is going to kind of hit with, and you touched on one. I think perhaps if we finish up with the service piece, but I mean, where else do we kind of see the focus moving into kind of 22?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, right? I think if we were going to kind of maybe even bullet point things that people need to focus on, content we've already touched upon. There's stuff that we're trying at the moment. I think just to kind of throw it out there, we are talking about launching a whole set of kind of hybrid blog articles, which is video and text. Just to see how that plays with the algorithm. So we've got that's going on, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I guess from a kind of lead generation perspective, because I think that's quite a big part of the strategic piece that we kind of provide clients with. The privacy policy of last year, and I think Apple would have been kind of driver of this.
Definitely.
iOS 14 launch.
Yes.
Facebook, I think, has been hammered with it in some respects, right? So we looked at some studies recently internally, and one of our colleagues basically pulled out some data, and there's that kind of, you've got to opt in to see ads.
That's right. Yeah.
And that opt-in figure is kind of estimated to be about 15%. Right. So if you imagine the audience that you could basically target previously using Facebook, the size of that audience now is ultimately 85% less, right?
Crazy.
So you're now only able to target 15%. And I was wondering, I wonder who those 15% are that have opted in, right?
Yeah, because I haven't opted in.
No, so I kind of almost look at it and think, well, I think that I haven't either, but it's still a case of certain ads you're seeing and certain ads you're not. I think that's part of it, right? And I think there's a kind of grey area that does exist there. But what I was trying to kind of get to is what do you do about 15%, right? It changes the way that you kind of,
are they really super engaged? Is that what you're
because like I said, if you go back to who those 15%, how many of those are actually people that are either running ads or page admins? Maybe these are people who are using the professional side of Facebook, and obviously it won't equate to 15%.
No.
But there's certainly a percentage of people in there that need to see ads, right?
Yeah, there's just some people who just don't really care.
No, that's not. I don't know why you would go into your settings and.
No, but on Apple, obviously, I mean, it asks you outright, right? As soon as you install a new application, do you want us to track you across other apps? No.
Right.
No. I mean, it's yes or no, and it's predominantly,
Yeah, but I think what's going to happen next year is we're going to have to see kind of almost like native data collection and lead generation, and I think that's going to really accelerate. And I think we've all kind of seen direct sort of lead ads on these platforms, which you see something that's interesting, and instead of clicking through to a website or a landing page, you basically end up being taken to a very quick form with most of your details pre-filled already. And I think there's going to be more of that, because I feel as if like advertisers are just going to have to be a little bit smarter. I think the challenge with lead ads, from our experience, I'd say over the last maybe couple of years of using these, it's just the quality issue. The quality of a lead that come through directly that
challenge
is just not as good as maybe taking someone through to a landing page where they're having to kind of read information, fill out every field, as opposed to it being sort of pre-filled for them. And another thing, and I think we've always kind of said, like, if we ask people to do a little bit more work, they'll be a little bit more
qualified a bit more,
but I think what's going to happen is, because of these changes and the fact that you're going to have to you've got a smaller pool of sort of fish to target. You're going to have to just be really fast and efficient in terms of how you're collecting those leads. And then that kind of brought me on to, well, okay, if that's happening, I think there's a couple of consequences. And I think the first is how important will landing pages be
Mm-hmm.
in 2022? We're massive advocates of dedicated landing pages.
That's right. Yeah.
But actually, how is that going to evolve? Because if you don't need landing pages, then perhaps what do you do at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Or and the second point I think related to this is, if we know that, and we had a big internal discussion on this yesterday, but if we know that the lead quality perhaps is not as good from a lead ad, well, we need to understand that segment a bit better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that propensity in sales and marketing to say, right, a good lead is someone that's ready to buy now, and a bad lead is someone who's not ready to buy now. Yeah. And that not ready to buy now is terrible, because that could be someone who's ready to buy in 6 months.
That's right.
Right? And so the conversation that we had internally was, okay, well, hold on, we need to understand that, because actually, rather than saying here's a lead, we need to be able to segment that top of funnel piece to say, okay, here's a lead that's ready to buy now, here's a lead that's not, right? And the people that aren't, we have to find ways of identifying and qualifying that quickly. But it goes back to that conversation we had a couple of weeks back when we did the last show. Yeah. When we started talking about that messy middle, right? Yeah. Because the middle of a funnel piece, I think next year becomes absolutely critical if these things that I'm talking about
start to happen,
right? Because actually you're going to have to, you can't just disqualify everyone that's not ready to buy now. I think companies need to be much more mature in terms of how they're processing that data. Yeah. But marketers have to also be able to say, okay, look, our job isn't done now, right? We've generated that lead, but our work isn't done. We're going to have to build a relationship, whether it's a virtual relationship or whether we kind of have some sort of personal handoff strategy in there. But we've got to build a relationship with this person so that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, when they're ready to buy, they're not disillusioned because we didn't care the first time around. Yeah. We've actually helped to kind of solidify that relationship, and so they come to us first. And I wonder how many brands, well, and I know how many brands we work with that really don't want to touch that piece. No, they care about selling now, right? Because their targets are this quarter.
And they're spending money now.
Right. Yeah. And I think this is, if I was going to kind of look at all of this and say, look, there's a change in how ads are served, there's a change in how data is collected, therefore there has to be a change in terms of how we manage and process that data, because the way that things are sold are going to be different as well. It's kind of very fluffy and stuff in terms of what we're talking about, but actually it's not, because the second you start to relay that into the funnel, it's almost like you're going to have two very separate funnels. Yeah. And it's going to be two very different strategies, two very different ways of handling these prospects. But then our salespeople and marketing people today equipped to do that.
Yeah, I think you're going to look. It's going to be a big challenge in this part of the world, right? It's going to be a big challenge because of especially in this part of the world, because the longevity and the forward thinking is definitely there at government level, right? So government and semi-government, everything's driven for the future. Everything is future-based, but in private enterprise, a lot of the time it's not. And usually, even at a multinational level, there's regional, instances that may have partners and things that are not necessarily driven. So I think it's going to be a challenge to look at that. I think also, I've seen a bit of a shift in the way that some of the ads are kind of almost pushing you to open things. It's difficult now on some ad types on Instagram, for example, not to open the ad now. Yeah. When you're trying to scroll through stories, inevitably it pops up, right? That kind of. So I think they seem to be testing that as well. I think they need to also realize the problem, and perhaps they not bothered with it previously because it's just a huge scoop all catch-all. But as you said, now there's less people seeing it, and if those less people are still uninterested, that's a bigger problem for Facebook, right?
Yeah,
and Instagram.
And I think what they've done is they've simplified the algorithm. And I think I spoke to you about this a few weeks
Yes, ago. The interest-based stuff. They just hammer you on interest.
Right. So now, if I engage with one real estate ad,
I get 5 or 6.
The next 30 I'll see, and I literally I was like, how many are there? Right? Because I was like, okay, why am I just seeing?
I've had exactly the same based on our conversation. Sneakers, right? That's just kind of continually in my feed, and then I noticed it because I didn't engage with a couple of ads, and then something else popped up, and then I engaged with that, and it was just like that was what I saw for next week.
Yeah.
So they're definitely playing around with it for sure.
And I mean, it'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
It's almost, I don't know if as an advertiser whether I'm really annoyed about that. I think potentially I am, because I just piggyback off someone else's ad that's doing really well, because ultimately now if someone engages with a really good ad, and
they're going to see my ad anyway.
Yeah, they're going to see mine because they can't avoid it, because especially if I spend 5 minutes on Instagram after that, they're going to see the whole load of stuff. But then what I'm also doing is saying is now I've got to compete with everyone else, because every single real estate development in Dubai now is being shown to me in the space of just a few minutes. And so am I now working harder to close that deal?
I wonder if one of the things is also based on, I don't know, potentially where you live, because in Dubai, being very cosmopolitan, everything is this, right? Even down to the fact that if you go to Northern Emirates or Abu Dhabi, it's more chilled. So I wonder if the sense of that marketing and sales piece also runs at this pace, right? So I don't know if there's any desire to kind of look at a longer play, perhaps, right? Because it has to be this, it has to be this. It's last minute, it's this, everything. I've had 2 conversations this week where people are like, we need to activate something. We made the decision 2 days ago, and I was like, well, what was the urgency? Oh, we're going to press tomorrow with an announcement. Right. Okay. And we had a very famous incident where, for example, even somebody hadn't registered a domain name for a new property that had been built. I mean, just like it, and it's like an afterthought. So because it's this, right? There's a lot of this. So I wonder if that kind of has that impact as well. Just that there's no desire for longevity, right? It's kind of next new thing.
Yeah, possibly. It's just I think it becomes challenging for sellers, I think, is the issue.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
because you're now just opening that market up to much more people and much more competitors. And
I think also the Apple thing has opened consumers' eyes, because a lot of the time consumers are blind to the fact they don't know how they're targeted, right? So it's like, I was thinking about that the other day, and then an ad pops up. Brilliant. Some of them are super happy about that. Some of them are super paranoid, right? Obviously, my phone's listening on me. Someone's reading my messages, whatever the case may be. But I think with, again, what Apple's done, which it does a lot of the time, is it will push something to the forefront of people's minds because it's in their hand, right? And I think that's the other thing. I don't know what that is. I think perhaps because it's in your hand, it's next to you in your bed, it's it feels very much part of your daily life. There's actually no harm, in all honesty, if you look at it rationally, for then any application to track your activity across other apps. What's the harm? There's literally no harm, right? But something is kind of like, no, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to follow me, right? Because you don't even know what they're tracking. That's the thing.
I had an absolute nightmare yesterday. And I can say this because I know my wife doesn't listen to the show.
Confidently, because she usually calls you when we're on there.
Yeah, exactly. She forgets that we're even doing a show.
Exactly.
When I bought her Christmas present yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, have you got that kind of loyalty app thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got my wife's one." And didn't even think twice. I was like, get her some points. Scan the code. 20 minutes later, she phones me. Have you been into this store? No. Why? She's like, because I've just got an invoice for this. I was like, well, that's bizarre. She's like, can you just? She goes, I've just checked in the bank account just to see if the money come out. I've used my personal credit card. So I was able to kind of completely lie and deny it. But
amazing.
But I was like,
she's onto their consumers online today.
Exactly.
I see the cameras. I need to know what's going on.
What's it exactly?
Exactly what's linked.
It was
they're using my loyalty card.
A nightmare.
That's
I got a connected world that we're in.
I was in a mall yesterday and I got hit for the first time ever with geolocation SMS.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, and I got hit twice in the space of an hour and a half.
Okay.
First time I've hit with that, because I heard a rumor that the telecoms providers were allowing that now. It's the first time I've seen it.
Okay.
So I was close to a mall and I got hit with it. And then when I was in the mall, I got a different message.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool.
She shop.
No, it's the Deer City Centre. Yeah, Deer City Centre.
The mall sent you.
The mall sent me a
Oh,
message.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I was close to it. It's like, hey, listen, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And then obviously when I was in there, I got hit with another message, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, very true.
So I mean, look, that again, that therein lies the challenge, right? Everyone loves to be, kind of that personal touch, but there's always a trade-off, right? And I think that the challenge is that a lot of the time people don't want that trade-off, right? It's kind of like, no, I'm not gonna give you this, or in order to get this, you need this, right? And look, and I think back to that, obviously, with the loyalty piece, that's definitely where people can start to build their first party data. They can start to understand spending behaviors and patterns. They can start to target offers directly at you, and start to communicate in different methods. And I think that's where there is going to be that shift, where I think, there's going to be ultimately people, I think, going to start to realize that if they are relying on things like Facebook and Instagram, they're relying on them. They're beholden to their algorithms. They're beholden to their investment point. So ultimately, people have to start investing in their own way to communicate to their customer, right? However that presents itself, right? They've got to start doing that. Otherwise, you're going to end up just completely shutting out, right? Shutting out. But the stuff for your own data is a bit boring, right?
It's not sexy.
Yeah, it's not exciting. It's not like a video ad and stuff like that. But I mean, the fact is that it's crucial, right? I mean, there's no reason why. I know that we got approached by a tire company that wanted to start to build a relationship with their end consumers. And I was like, that's brilliant. Like, he goes, yeah, but everyone else thinks I'm crazy. I was like, well, yeah. Trying to build a relationship, I get where you're trying to go. Because they've got no visibility, right, on their consumer. They do market reports and market trends, but actual communication points at a brand level, right down to us as consumers, right? So I think that's where that changes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the and that's only going to head in one direction.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's totally it. We know the changes with the cookies. All of this stuff.
The cookie change is huge.
This is all very much playing into the hands of any business now that has its own data. Like what you said. I think, and if you don't, I think if you want to put a strategy in place for next year, it's generate as much data as you can. Actually, I tell you what's interesting is because there's two things that happen here, right? I keep saying that today. I don't know why.
It's fine.
Right?
Can do a t-shirt for you.
Yeah. We play into, like, all of these changes are playing into the hands of third-party brokers in some respects.
Right.
Because a lot of these guys have data that the end users don't.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're talking about, and these brokers aren't necessarily online, right? It could be a retailer.
True.
So you walk into a retailer, like in the tire shop, right?
Yeah.
The tire guys. So maybe they're the manufacturers, but they're not the guys selling it.
That's right. Yeah.
The guys selling it have the data. The manufacturers possibly don't. Or it could be hotels where the online travel agencies have the data.
Yeah.
The hotels don't have the data.
No.
Right. I mean, I was having a conversation yesterday with a hotel group, and they were like, "Well, we don't actually have as much data on our guests because we're not allowed to get it from the OTAs."
Right. Yeah.
So your bookings and experiences keep that data.
Yeah.
And so if they don't have first-party data, how are they expected to really kind of market those guys? And I think you can just say the same across so many different industries. And I felt there was a shift a couple of years back, and I don't know where it kind of got. No, I don't think it got lost in COVID. I think that there was definitely brands that maybe even up their game. I think Coke, for example, suddenly realized actually we need to know who's drinking our product. Yeah. So they started now, they started kind of, direct consumer marketing and, like data collection and stuff like that. Some huge global brands are never going to have issues with shelf space. We're saying actually we need to know who our customers are because we're not future-proofing ourselves.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big part of this, where if you don't have that first-party data and you don't own that data, and you don't know who your end users or customers are, like maybe you're in trouble, right? From a marketing and advertising perspective, specifically, how are you going to reach your audience?
There's a retailer here that I used to religiously buy from, just haven't in years now, for years, but they were collecting data 10 years ago.
Right.
on email, name, date of birth, and each time you went, they'd ask for something different. I don't know what they did with that.
No.
Like, I never got targeted with something. There was definitely spending patterns that I had around birthdays, Christmas, stuff like that, because I just used to religiously purchase this brand. It was like the go-to brand for me. And I'd ask them, I'd joke, I'm like, what are you doing with this? Like, every time you're asking me, you know, and I don't know what's going on, because it's interesting. There's two brands now that I know also ask, and one of them does use the data, the other one doesn't use it at all. One's a pet company, like they ask for your name, your email, everything, and every time you purchase something, right? And what are you doing with that, right? You know, and it's great. Like, if they turn around and said, oh, by the way, you've crossed 100 dirhams, you get a 10 dirham voucher back, and they do that, fantastic. Like, I mean, even that delight piece, and that maybe kind of bring us on to, well, we've only got 3 minutes. But I was going to say, brings us on to the last kind of thing for 2022, right? That service piece, that customer delight piece. Yeah. I mean, look, I think so. You know, I kind of jumped through this earlier, but I think that with the whole COVID obviously situation, this has given people either the chance to pivot, or as a consumer, the opportunity to try new things through being forced to try new things, because that perhaps their person they're working with is no longer there, or the company's kind of changed or whatever. And I think people have acquired new customers, right? And the way they've acquired new business has been different as well. So I think that kind of service piece is where there needs to be some focus as well. So you and I talk about that funnel piece a lot and go down to close, but then obviously past that, it's how does that look? Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's almost like everyone forgets that that funnel doesn't necessarily just stop. Right. Yeah. As soon as you got a signed contract or a purchase to be made, it's okay. What happens after that? And I think you're totally right. I think there's companies that perhaps never even met their clients. Right. Which I think potentially is a change.
Definitely. Yeah.
And if
I had this last week, right? Met a client for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so these things are new. So gauging customer satisfaction and feedback and all of that kind of stuff is huge. And again, I wonder how many people we see it every now and then from a B2C perspective. You get an NPS survey kind of stuff. Apparently the Emirates one, I think we've had a moan about that in the past, where you get a smiley face.
Where you land and put the smiley face,
and if you put a very unhappy face, they never contact you.
That's right.
For more information, even though they know who you are. But apparently that's been upgraded now, so that they do
can reach out.
Yeah, because I had a moan to someone at Emirates about it, so we're working on it. But that feedback piece is really key. I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
Totally missed by the majority of companies as well.
Completely.
And so like net promoter score survey, I think that becomes really important. I think the customer feedback side of it becomes equally important as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, just checking if we had questions there, guys. So look, I think I mean, look, it's crazy. It's actually 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock. So I think we always try to nip this in the bud within the hour. It was always going to be ambitious, guys, to do a highlight and a forward-thinking show end of year. So I think, look, thank you again for watching, listening. We continue to do this. We enjoy it, right? It's good fun, kind of catching up and kind of Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of our listeners and viewers. But great discussion again. I'm looking forward to see what 2022 brings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure. Well, if we do figure out the NFT stuff in the next 2 weeks, I don't think we need to do
it. We won't be, we'll be fine with just like I'll have a virtual. Actually, it'd probably be good to do like our show in the meta space. That'd be pretty cool. I did see something yesterday that Facebook are currently paying people in Facebook to live in the metaverse.
Really?
Yeah, and encouraging other people to come in with Oculus and everything. But we can talk about that in 2022. So, cool. Excellent. Thank you, Amit.
All right.
Good seeing you. All right, mate. Cheers. See you later. Bye, everyone. Thanks.